I know, Abby, right? It's if we didn't have Maddie getting us on this century. Although Facebook, I've heard, is for older people. So I know I'm pretty old and I own it. Okay, well, we are going to get started. It looks like we already have about 60 people here so far. So thank you everybody for joining us. It's nice to do a training that's not quite as serious or maybe even as boring as some of our grants training. This is more of an exciting development for us as we've been putting some things together, and we are so excited to be able to present them to you all today. So sit back and let us know if you have any questions in the chat. Actually, in the Q&A, we'll go ahead and jump right in. Maddie, if you want to go to our next slide. My name is Tally Viteri. I know most of you guys, most of you know me, but my name's Tally. Changed my Bitmoji around for the fall and my new haircut, so that's all good. And we will be having some newer people join us throughout the presentation. But just to give you an idea, this presentation will be in two different parts. So the first part will be talking about our new victim resource directory. I know a lot of people have already seen it, so we're really excited. A lot of you have already been on it to update your own agency's information, but we just wanted to launch that and let you all know that's happening. And that is in partnership with the Concern Center. We have a contract with them, and they're actually based out of New York. This project was piloted in New York first, and I'm not going to say too much more about that because they're going to spoil their presentation. And then after that, we will be having the University of Utah Criminal Justice Center has partnered with us as well to conduct a needs assessment for both victims as well as victim advocates. So we'll be doing that for the second half of this. So yes, I already see this happening. Everybody, if you can put your name and your agency in the chat, we just like to see who's here, where are y'all from, say hello. Yeah, go ahead and load that all up in there. Awesome, I see those coming in. That on my other screen. Cool, thank you guys for joining us. It's so nice to see you. You don't even have to be here. That just makes me happy, especially on a Friday afternoon. Thank you. We know that this is probably not maybe everybody's favorite day to be sitting in a webinar. It's the time that we could do it most so we appreciate that. I'll go ahead and let everybody introduce themselves when they join on the call, so that way we don't get the whole awkward introductions via Zoom. Everybody else, go ahead and introduce yourselves in the chat. And I am seeing a lot of people from a lot of different places. So that is really, really cool. So yeah, make sure to share this too. We will be, we are recording this, as I already said, and it will be on our website shortly after. And then we also are Facebook live streaming this. So that's pretty cool too. So make sure you hop on there later if you want to see it and share it to anybody you know. This is available. If you have any questions, please feel free to put those through the Q&A. We will be checking that periodically. So go ahead and put any questions that you might have in there. Let's see here, put your name and agency in the chat. This is recorded and I've already given the overview of the session. So I think with that, we will go ahead and, I think that's already been established, but we do have ASL interpreters as well for the deaf and hearing impaired. And then you can also click on that CC at the bottom if you would like closed captioning. So without much further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Hildy and she will get us started.
Hildy, sorry. Okay, I apologize. So welcome, thank you so much. Welcome everyone. And thank you for taking your time, like Tally stated. This is very exciting in regards to talking about the Victim Resource Connect. I am the outreach, language access, and civil rights coordinator for the Utah Office of Victims of Crime. And I've been in the field for, oh my goodness, over 16 years in different capacities. And so I know in the 16 years doing this work, we always talked about how this was needed, having a victim resource directory that individuals could go in and we can provide to individuals as they're going through their journey And for service providers also trying to find services when working with someone specific. So we're excited. So today we're going to talk about, of course, this Victim Resource Connect. We have the amazing individuals from the Concern Center, which they're going to take time and talk about who they are, helpful features in regards to this Resource Connect. They'll talk about a feature in your organization. So many of you that are participating today, turn in information in regards to their organization. And if you haven't, please let us know. Let me know at the end. You're welcome to email me your information and we can go ahead and do that. And it's for organizations that provide services to victims of crime. Things to consider, overall goal of the Concern Center. And then at the end, we'll do kind of like a small practice. I'm really excited to show the features and how navigate this new resource connect that you will be able to provide to individuals, and it's in different languages too. So very exciting on that part. And there's any questions that may arise after that. So we'll go next slide, please, Maddie. So one of the things, like I stated previously, this new platform is just really to connect victims of crime with the appropriate resources. And it's really, what I love about this is that individuals do not need to know the terminology. They can just say whatever their concern is. And they just have to put their location and how far they want to go. And that's all they need to. And then they will come up all these different concerns or information to guide them. And so it also is going to be a great way that service providers will be also to find resources when speaking with someone, if they're talking or themselves and what agencies are in their communities and things like that. And really to bridge the gap between. So it's been, is a continuous thing too. We're going to be working on this and updating it all the time. So any changes. So it's a live program. And I don't have the word program, so I'm thinking in English, but it's one of those things that is going to be updated. So we are not providing information to individuals that is incorrect, and which it may like for them to get resources in the future. So I'm excited about that. And so here's the link. We'll have the link several times. So please save this link, more information. This flyer that you see on, I guess is on my left side, but it'd probably be on your right side, it has the contact information, and we will send this out so individuals will be able to print it and put it in your offices and your locations and give to others. Also will be available in our social media. Maddie says, yeah, it's sharing a file in the meeting. So perfect. So thank you, Maddie. We couldn't do this without Maddie. So thank you. So we'll go to the next slide. And this is going to be Erin Halligan at We Concern Center. She will go present on this. Thank you, Erin, for being here.
Thank you, Hildy. Hello, everyone. My name is Erin Halligan Avery. I am the president and founder of Concern Center. I am joined here today with my colleague, Greg Irwin, who is also on the call. Greg works very closely with us in terms of product management and ensuring that the platforms are up and running successfully. He is a master of all trades, and together, hopefully the two of us will be able to answer any questions that come our way today. I have to start by saying that working with Hildy and Tally have been an absolute delight for us. We work with a lot of clients throughout the United States, and I have to say, we're talking top 1 or 2 of the groups of people that we are able to work with on this platform. So you're very lucky to have them leading the charge on this, and we're lucky to be working with them. So what is Concern Center? I want to tell you just briefly how Concern Center originated, because I'm a mental health therapist by training. I have a doctorate in mental health counseling and supervision from the University of Rochester. And for all intents and purposes, I've worked in higher education for about 18 years, working with victims, working with survivors, working just on general college related concerns. And I was a case manager right around 2011, 2012, and found that many of my students were coming to me and saying, I need help with X. And a lot of my time was being spent referring students to where they needed to go, either on campus or off campus. We had a really successful marketing campaign right around 2013, and we increased the number of concern referrals we were receiving by 141%. And I was still the only person who was managing the sort of intake and the case referrals that were coming in. So out of pure necessity, I said, I need to find a better way of helping these students get connected to resources. And the thing I know is that they don't always know where they're supposed to go to get help, but they absolutely always know what it is that they're concerned with. And so I simply said, well, why can't we reverse the help seeking process? And why can't we allow the individual to enter their concern and then receive a prioritized list of support resources that can help them? And it was really through that process that Concern Center was born. And now we have been a company that's been in existence for quite a few years and is helping individuals who are in distress or headed toward distress to get connected with support quickly, efficiently, easily. It really is a dream come true for me to see other state platforms, government agencies, K-12s, colleges and universities, veterans associations using Concern Center to help their clientele. So Concern Center is going to be available to your clients on a 24/7 basis. It is a mobile website, which means it is available anywhere, the desktop, a mobile phone, a laptop, an iPad, any type of handheld device. And as I said previously, the client simply needs to know what it is that they're concerned about. So they can type in, I need help with a protective order. I'm in a bad relationship. I had a bad breakup. I need financial support. I'm looking for safe shelter. Any type of concern. We have over 100 concerns already pre-existing in the platform, and we have an infinite ability to add as many concerns as we see come up through our Google Analytic process. So individuals, clients can search either by entering their concern, by searching our automated list of concerns, by searching for a resource directly, and that client then is going to receive a prioritized list of support options that you and other resources have identified can assist with that particular concern. Hildy, could you go to the next slide? Thank you. So some helpful features for Concern Center. Some are hot off the press, and some have been along for a very long while now. So Concern Center now is available in over 100 different languages. You'll see when you go to the platform that in the top right-hand corner, there is an ability to select whatever language the user prefers to use while accessing the platform. Another cool feature is that if the user were to go into the search feature and just start typing in their native language, the platform is going to recognize that native language and it will update the platform based on the native language that that individual is using. You have a zip code feature enabled on your platform, which will allow individuals to search within a 5, 15, or 50-mile radius of their zip code. And there's also an ability to filter resources by certain criteria. So they can search by the types of services offered, which we have gone in and coded based on information that you all provided to us. There's some cost, different languages that are offered, and also by hours of operation. So what's open now, what's open 24/7. They have the ability to contact the resource directly from the site. It is an email platform that allows them to go in, click on your resource, click on contact this resource. It will open up a form submission. They can enter their name, their email address, and what they're concerned about. And that form will go immediately to the email address that you have identified for us in the background of the system. Most of the time, this is a generic email address, so info@organization.com. In some cases, it is a specific individual that will receive that message. And we have the ability to identify up to 5 CC or carbon copy members who can receive that email as well. We also have a quick escape button added to our platform. I probably don't have to go into depth explaining that to you all based on the field and the services that you are in, but it will immediately direct the individual to just a generic Google site, and it will also change the tab that they are on to a Google site as well by opening a new tab so that both are showing as Google options. We went back and forth about which platform to use to immediately direct the individual to. We conducted interviews with probably upwards of 10 to 12 different individuals and organizations to get some feedback based on where best to direct the individual. And based on that information, we selected Google as the most neutral place to take the survivor. Concern Center is also 100% ADA web accessible. And so you'll notice that the colors, the fonts, the text, and the information, including images, if those do become uploaded at a later date, are all able to be read by an individual who needs a screen reader or any other type of assistive technology. Next slide, please. Thank you. So when it comes to featuring your organization, Greg and I wanted to just highlight a few things that we have seen that have been successful for other resources in the past in ensuring that clients are getting the best information that they need and getting connected with your organization as quickly and efficiently as possible. The description within your resource section of the platform is incredibly important. We've gone back and forth about whether to say description or whether to call it more of your organization's mission, because this should really be a statement that gives the user a general idea of who your organization is, not necessarily what your organization does. And the reason for that is that there are other opportunities in the platform, particularly through the other services offered feature, that will allow them to see that you offer support for safe housing, a 24-hour hotline, victim assistance, crisis management, those types of things. But really the description serves as a way of welcoming the client to your organization and giving them a general idea of who you are and what the goal of your organization is. You also have the ability to add a photo to your resource. Identifying a photo that really represents your organization is ideal in, again, welcoming that client and giving them a visual sense of who you are as a group. We certainly want to double check that all of the contact information is correct. My team and I have spent a considerable number of hours sort of mining through all of the data that was provided to us to ensure that email addresses are formatted correctly, that nothing looks off with phone numbers, double checking hours of operation. But a victim support platform is really only as good as the information that we have available. And you can imagine that a client, particularly in their time of need, is going to want access to the most up-to-date and adequate resource information possible. So we will be setting up a system with Tally and Hildy to ensure that we are reaching out to any resource that's identified in the platform to ensure that that information is as up-to-date on a regular basis as possible. You'll notice that there's also a suggest and edit button under each resource, which allows a user, a client, anyone to go in and say, hey, I tried this email address and it didn't go to the right place, or I identified the phone number, but it took me to a dead end, so that we can get in there and my Concern Center staff and I can change that information immediately. We talked about having the ability to add multiple contact emails that will ensure that more than one individual will be the recipient of the email notification that is sent. You have the ability to edit the text that the client will receive after emailing your service. Right now it says, thank you for contacting the name of your organization about the concern that they have identified. Please remember that email is not monitored 24/7. And if your concern requires immediate assistance, please contact 911. If you want 911 replaced with a different emergency number, whether that be a hotline or another number, we can easily do that in the background of the site. We'll just need to work with Tally or Hildy, or you can contact us using that submit and edit button, and we will go in and ensure that that information is correctly sending your clients to the right place. It's important to identify the types of services that you offer at a glance. So you will notice in the platform when you click the Show More button that a list of the different services you offer are on there. If there is a service you offer that you either don't feel is adequately listed or that you would like to add, again, that's just a simple email to let us know, and we'll easily and quickly add that in the background of the platform. There's an opportunity to identify areas serviced, to identify languages that are offered. I saw in going through the data that some of you have identified using translation services by phone. So we will be working to ensure that that information is captured in the platform, because similar to our Concern Center Translate feature, we really want clients to know that when they call a hotline or a particular phone number, that they will be greeted in a language that is specific to their needs. Cost of services really was broken down to a couple different categories. Free was the predominant category that we found, but there certainly were others that said maybe free, but some services have a fee to them, or free, but may vary based on service. So you'll want to ensure that we have adequately captured the information about your cost of services. In the case of eligibility criteria, we want to ensure that when a client is going to your particular resource, they know immediately being at that resource that they or their experience qualifies for your services. Again, in the spirit of Concern Center, we really want to decrease the amount of runaround that a client gets from going to a bunch of different places and not receiving service based on whatever potential criteria they did not have that qualified. I'm happy to say that a majority of the resources that are in the background vary usually by county, but that minimally the requirement was to, in most cases, be a survivor of a crime. And so that will certainly help and aid in individuals' ability to get connected. And then the hours of operation. So I was speaking with Greg earlier today about differentiating a 24-hour hotline from the actual times that your brick and mortar office may be available. And so we will also be working in the background to ensure that your clients know, or anyone who's going to access your resource knows, that even if it's after 5 o'clock on Friday, in most cases, they still will have another option available, making sure that they know that they can be supported, usually whatever time of day we're talking about. And some things to consider. So when you have an opportunity to go into the platform today and check out your organization and play around with it, be thinking from the client perspective. So Concern Center really is focused on the client user experience and ensuring that their experience is easy, efficient, and that they have all of the information that they need in order to successfully connect quickly to the resources that they need. So when you are in there reviewing the information about your resource today, be thinking, does this say everything that the client would need to know about us? And that doesn't mean sort of a laundry list of have I listed every single service that we offer, but instead, does my description or does my types of service give a general user the idea that if they were in XYZ situation, they have a home here, they can use our resource successfully? So be thinking from a client perspective, or even ask some of your clients to review the information that you have available in Concern Center to see if they feel that it adequately matches the mission and the vision of your organization. Be thinking too about the types of keywords that they may be using to search for your platform, and enter those into the actual Concern Center main search site. Certainly, if you think that there is a resource or a keyword or a word that is specific to a certain group or situation or organization, we want you to search for that. And if it's not there, to let us know so that we can then add that to our algorithm on the back end to ensure that those search features are coming up for clients. The good news is that even if a search term is entered that is not finding any results, the user will still receive a message that says it didn't return any results. The search term did not return any results. However, that doesn't mean we still can't help. Please contact this email address and this phone number to get additional information about how we can help you move forward. The goal here is that the client never receives a dead end where they're not sure, where am I supposed to go from here? Or gosh, my concern is so specific that no one's able to help. We always want there to be hope and promise that this individual has another place where they can go to get assistance. This third bullet is related to ensuring that your contact information is correct, that they can contact you easily, that when they do, that those email addresses you've listed in the background of the site are responsive. The user will know that you don't have to be sitting by your computer 24/7 in order to answer their emails, but they will receive an email confirmation about their submission, and it will indicate who they contacted, the time that they contacted that person, and also some emergency response information should they not receive a response back within 24 hours. And then lastly is your image representative. We talked a little bit about ensuring the type of photo that would be added to the resource section, but making sure that it looks and feels and is a representative image of the organization at hand is certainly a nice visual way of helping the client feel comfortable reaching out and contacting you. That may be my last slide. Could you just advance one more? Oh, there we are. Perfect. This is my last slide. So in terms of our overall goal for Concern Center, you all know and you all work with individuals who have gone through something that is usually incredibly life-changing and incredibly difficult. And we all know that even in our own personal lives, when we have made the choice to reach out for help and to get support, that's a really, really important step in the help-seeking process, and that nothing is going to dissuade that person from continuing to seek help and get help other than continuing to hit a dead end, not find the resources, and being given the runaround. So Concern Center's main focus is that when someone has made the courageous choice to seek support, that they are able to do that as quickly and as easily as possible, and as efficiently as possible. Your clients are not going to need to know the name of your organization. I can tell you, having looked at the hundreds and hundreds of organizations in Utah, you are all doing phenomenal services for individuals. And I think that if an individual just knows that they're struggling with domestic violence, or they want to leave and they don't know how, or they are a victim of a crime, or they've experienced a sexual assault or child abuse, or any types of the really challenging things that they have experienced, that they just need to know what that is. And then your organization will already have identified that they can support that particular concern. So to that end, I'll close just by saying probably the most important part of what we will talk about today, which is that a resource directory is only as good as the information that's in there. We in our company will do whatever we can to ensure that that information is as up to date as possible. We'll be doing constant checks. We will also be working with your team to ensure that you are sending out reminders on a regular basis to update the information. But it really could be a matter of life and death for an individual if they were to try and contact a resource and continue to not get where it is that they need to go. So it's incredibly important for us that the information is up to date and you have our commitment to ensure that we are doing our part to help your clients get connected to your really valuable resources.
Okay, thank you so much, Erin. And I appreciate so much. You all can see why we chose to go with the Concern Center and the amazing work. It is such an important work. Me and Tally spend the many hours looking and researching different platforms, and so you know, Erin and Greg took so much time to explain to us, and we found that this was the best thing for that we can see for our state. And as Erin stated, this is important as the information's there. And we know that many individuals, you know, may not contact anyone in person, but they're going to go and pull up their phones and look for resources. And so we want to make sure we'll continue to update this on an ongoing basis. If there's a resource that provides services to victims of crime, please do send email to me if it's not in there, or if we need to update any information, please let me know. I put in the chat my email, and it's also on the flyer and all the information, so you're welcome to contact me there, and I will work on getting that updated and work on ensuring that information is in there. So the fun part of this is to practice, right? To look at how the system will, I guess the resource, the program will look like. So if we go, and if you all can go into this link, and I'll have Maddie. Maddie, can you pull up? Thank you. So as you all can see, is this beautiful site. And as Erin stated, we do have the exit site, the quick exit button in the top. If you can see also, there's the language. And Maddie, if you can please click where it says the little arrow, you can click in there and you can see all the different languages. So we want to ensure, so for example, if someone is Spanish, they can click on the Español, and then they can put their information in Spanish, and it will pull up everything is translating to that language. So we want to make sure that it is, we are supporting individuals no matter where they come from and their language, and more, you know, to ensure that they know the resources. So let's go back to English so we can look at it. And so let's put in the concern, what do you all think? Should we put like breakup or sad? We're just going to try this, and you all can play with this in your own. So we'll do sad, and we'll just put a zip code. We'll put, Maddie will go ahead and put a zip code in there. And then we go and put the distance. So depending on the distance that individual is going to go. So let's do 15, perfect. So we do search. And so it will come all these concerns that go under sad. So maybe it is depression. So we'll click on depression. And so for the find, it shows, we'll show all the resources they follow under that. And then we'll see the stickers, and we'll have the information, individual, the contact. So you can kind of see, so you can kind of play around. And once again, go and look at your organization, like Erin stated. I know that we had sent emails to the organizations that had replied to look into it. So look at it, see what it shows in there. And if it's something that's incorrect, something that is missing, please do notify me immediately, or you can click on the bottom of your organization. You can click in there and it says suggest. So change, and I will get that email. Erin will get that information. And so let's go outside that, Maddie. We'll go back to the research, but I also kind of, okay. Yes, there you go. So also if an individual maybe is just looking at categories or looking at different suggestions, so it will show by the services, and also will show alphabetically, excuse me, all the concerns too. So you can click on that, all the resources alphabetically. I can't say that word today. So you can kind of look on that, click on that, but play around, get familiar with it, because I think it's important to be able, as you're directing individuals you're working with, to be able to explain and look at that. And if you have questions, we'll have a Q&A in the next slide. But please let us know. And like I said, please do notify me if you see anything is incorrect in there. Any questions? Let's go to the next slide. Maddie, thank you so much. Any has questions? Are you all excited for it? Because I'm really excited for it. This is so long needed in our state. So waiting to see if there's any questions at all. Oh, perfect. Thank you. Yes, it is very needed. And so, and like I said, this is going to be ongoing. It's going to be updated. It's just no one time, right? So we need to ensure that we can help as much as we can. Perfect. Excellent. So I will go ahead and we'll just, my information, if you go to the next slide, is in there. You'll know how to reach out to me. Like I said, I put it also in the chat. And do contact me if there's something we need to do. Okay, so with that, well, I think we're going to go to the next part of our webinar today. So thank you all. We're very excited.
Thank you so much, Hildy and Erin. I am so excited to have this resource available for everyone to utilize. I think it'll be really beneficial and utilized hopefully a lot, and we can be able to connect victims to the resources they need. If you want to, so we're going to be talking about our needs assessment that our office is hosting with the Utah Criminal Justice Center at the U of U School of Social Work, or College of, not School of Social Work, sorry, College of Social Work at the U. So we're really excited that we've been able to partner with them to develop and create this needs assessment. And we're hoping with this needs assessment that we can get a lot of valuable information. To start off, I want to go, if you go to the next slide, Maddie. Kind of want to do a little question thing. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen if it will let me click. Sorry, my Zoom is gone a little wonky for a second. See if it'll let me share my screen. Okay, I apologize. All of my buttons have disappeared for a moment. If you guys want to go to this link, the menti.com, and you can enter that code. I may. Perfect. And you guys can answer the first question. Sorry, I'll bring up the thing if it can. I apologize, 1 second. All of my buttons are gone for a second. It's like frozen for me for 1 second. I can see that you guys are responding, so that is perfect. And I will show your guys' response in just a moment. The webinar was working just fine until 2 seconds. Here. I may have Maddie, can you go to the link and share results on your end? I don't know if it will let you. See if my Zoom will update. So too many things. Okay. Awesome. I've got 26 responses if you guys want to keep putting in. It's your first is the describe in 3 words. How you think a victim feels when they navigate and go through the victim services process. So it's either whether it's community-based services or system-based. Okay. I've got like half a screen for 1 second. I apologize. I'm going to leave for 1 second and then I will get right back in. Awesome. I can see you guys have done 36 responses. Okay. I apologize for that. I finally do have numbers. Okay, so I can go ahead and share my screen. Okay. Great, you guys, looks like almost all of you have responded now. Okay. Let's see. All right, well, we tested it earlier and it was fine. I don't know why. Now I'll show you guys your results. Oh, there we go. Okay. Perfect. So now I can see some of your guys' results in here. Describe how a victim was feeling. And so we've got, and if you type this word, if it's in there more than once, you'll see those ones are usually the bigger words. So some of you guys have said scared, confused, overwhelmed, defeated, tired, lost, intimidated, confusing, stressed, frustrated, lost, uneducated, they're busy or afraid. I'm glad someone put empowered, that there's a good one in there. Nervous, I'm sure. So a lot of, I think a lot of theme in there, right? The victim is, it's a scary process to have that you've been a victim of a crime and now are trying to navigate how to get help. I'm so glad that we have the resource, the Connect resource, because that does help them feel a little less confused. It gives them an avenue. Thank you for those that put them in the chat too. Thank you so much. I apologize for that in there. In here though, I think that we really see this, that a lot of people, a lot of victims do often feel this confused, nervous. And so we want to get, with our assessment, we really do want to understand if this is how they're all the victims, or not all, but a lot of victims are feeling, or how they actually truly feel. That's part of our needs assessment. Okay, so it should give you another question. If you guys can hit the next one. Okay. So this one is just put into 3 words that you would use to describe how you feel about providing services within our system. So this is from your perspective. And if you want to do a chat, you can put in a chat, and so I believe you can select everyone, or you can have it comes to us. But okay, perfect. People are starting to put in words. So inadequate, not enough funding. Definitely, I think all of us are feeling that, especially this last year. Powerless, supportive. That's good. I'm glad there's one. Validating. Sometimes incapable, stressed, confused, lacking, passionate. Glad to see that one. Confident, resourceful, helpful. And it's awesome that helpful is in the center here. But it's interesting that's next to the powerless, right? So we have, I love seeing all the new things getting put in here by you guys. And it's a gamut of emotions that we're not feeling. Someone had said not enough. Glad to see that. So some felt knowledgeable, overwhelmed though, resourceful, empowering, validating, happy, busy, anxious, not enough options. So we have a large variety here essentially. So I think that this is great to see how you guys are feeling about the system, providing services in the system, whether you're community-based or system-based, you're still part of that whole system of after they've been a victim, right, essentially. And I think that this feeling right here can change depending on the day, right? As I, as a victim advocate in the past, I would have some days that I felt amazing and other days that I was completely defeated or felt like maybe I was, you had maybe a really difficult client or really difficult case that really could impact how you feel at those that day and how you feel like your work is, what you're doing in your work. Okay, so we're gonna move on. I just really wanted to do an exercise to kind of see how we're feeling about how you guys think victims feel and how you guys are feeling. So we can go ahead and go back to the PowerPoint. Perfect. So just a little introduction. A lot of you are already aware of what I'm doing in my position now. Some of you knew me as a grant analyst for our office. I was a VOCA grant analyst previously, was over the CJC's Utah County and JUAB and Wasatch County system-based VOCA grant programs. And before that, I had worked in the victim services field before that for 12 years, almost 13. And I worked just shy of 10 years for Sandy City Police Department as a system-based advocate. And I worked for 3 years before that at the amazing shelter CAPSA. And I did various titles there. Weekend shelter manager, was a mobile crisis team coordinator. I even worked in the daycare for a while and was also one of their rape prevention educators for a while as well. So I've kind of worked both in system-based and justice-based. My bigger amount of time was spent in system-based victim advocacy, but I've always had a great appreciation for both types of victim advocacy because both are so valuable for the process. So with this position that I'm in now, and I've been in since the very end of December, we were lucky enough to receive a federal grant that a lot of states applied for. So we have several states that now have this position, which is a state victim advocate liaison. Easiest way for me to describe or say what my position is that I'm an advocate for advocates. I really want to be here to help those that are in the victim service providing world, essentially give them a voice. A lot of times it can be you may be the only advocate in your entire county, and everyone that's your supervisor or around you, maybe a sworn officer or in a different field that they're not doing social work. Or you might be that you are a shelter worker that's working evenings, or like I used to do a weekend one where you do a 24-hour shift and you're right in the thick of it, of working with victims. And sometimes you may just not have someone that you feel like you want to go to or ask questions for. So that's part of my position, is to advocate for you, but to be a mentor. I definitely don't know everything by any means, but I do know a lot of people that do know a lot of things. So that's kind of the goal of that, mentoring, but also collaborating with other agencies and helping you collaborate. You know, some areas that you are maybe the entire advocate, system-based advocate for that county, and then you have a community-based, but maybe you don't know them as well. Helping you make those connections, or making the connection with an advocate that's in a neighboring county or neighboring area. So that's part of my position, is to mentor those that are new. I do, you know, usually present at our academy, make sure I try to get to know any of the new advocates, but I'm also here to help those that aren't new. And I'm also working a lot with our state agencies and our coalitions, UOVC and UCASA, and also our SOFTI program, which are all amazing, to really help create a cohesive response to victims of crime all across the state. You can go to the next slide, Maddie. Second kind of portion of my job is to provide, and this is something, technical assistance and training. This is something that Rochelle, our training coordinator, and our amazing Hildy that you heard from earlier, our outreach coordinator, we work as a team to provide this technical assistance and this training. The technical assistance that I specifically can provide is assistance with your programmatic issues, maybe with your grant. So maybe if you're wanting to look at your goals and objectives to see if that's really measuring the things that your agency is doing and how amazing the amazing services your agency is doing, but you don't feel like your goals and objectives really reflect that. Or you maybe have questions as you're doing for a VOCA grant, a PMT report, and are unsure of how that service should maybe look like or what that means. Those are things that I can also help with, as well as your grant analysts are amazing that way. But if you have questions specifically about your program, that portion is what I can provide technical assistance on. If you have questions with your budgets and things like that, your grant analyst is definitely the person you need to talk to. I can also help provide technical assistance with the victim service resources. So maybe if you're trying to find resources, or we're looking at trying to update something on our resource guide, but you're not sure where that's at or what could be available, then I can do the research too to help you, because I know all of you guys are so busy, have so many clients and victims that you're working with that it's hard sometimes to research that. So I'm happy to help with that. And then also helping you if you want to improve, or maybe don't have a policy on volunteers or things like that that you want to look at. I can work one-on-one with you with your practices of policies and procedures. One thing that's really helpful for me is if you have a policy and procedure that you feel like has been really working well for your agency. So maybe you have one that's on volunteers that, as I used to say, we had a volunteer policy, and pretty much every policy we had a name attached to it. So, you know, we had a dress code that we had to put in specifically that the volunteers couldn't wear tube tops, couldn't show their midriff, couldn't have offensive language or short shorts, because we had, you know, volunteers appear on scene in that kind of attire. So if you have great policies that you guys have really spent the time on, because I don't want to reinvent the wheel, please share those with me so that I can share them with others if you're comfortable with that. That can really help spread the expertise that we already have in our state across to those that maybe want assistance on that. Also training, I can provide training to your staff if you wanted to hold just a staff training for your entire organization, or you want me to come to one of your SART meetings or coalition meetings to provide training, I'm happy to do that. I do present usually for like UCASA's training on victim rights. Sometimes it's between Alex at Utah Crime Victims Legal Clinic, where I present on victims' rights in the court process, or I can also present on ethics as an advocate. I've also done crisis intervention and de-escalation, things like that. But I'm also happy to tailor our training for you guys. So that's a little bit about my position. The biggest piece of my position as well has been now this needs assessment. And so I'm really excited to have Erin and Christian with us today to talk about the needs assessment that we're now launching live. And we're hoping to, with this, we really wanted to build upon our previous assessment that we did about trauma-informed services. That one only came out to you guys as the victim service providers. This assessment that we're doing is going to have one for you guys as the victim service providers, but we also really want this to get out to victims and survivors to understand where those gaps are and their perspective of the victim service world. And then we also want to identify what supports you guys need to improve services and to create that seamless victim service system within your area. And then the other reason why we want to do this needs assessment is to increase and improve access for crime victims seeking services. You can go to the next slide, Maddie. This is going to turn the time now over to Christian and Erin to kind of delve into what this is. Thank you so much.
Sorry, I was on mute. Hi, everyone. My name is Christian Sarver. I am the Associate Director of the Utah Criminal Justice Center. We also have Erin Jemison here. Erin, do you have your camera on?
I do, but I think I'm very blurry. So I promise I'm not blurry in real life, but my name is Erin Jemison and I'm a research associate with the Utah Criminal Justice Center working on this project. And then some of you will also see me working with UOVC on their policy work. So I'm involved in a few different projects that are unrelated to one another and yet related at the same time. And I don't know why I'm blurry, but I'll work on it.
And Erin and I actually worked together in victim services. How long ago now? 15 years ago?
Yeah, let's not talk about that. I think it was even longer.
Sorry. Anyway, my background is in victim services. Both of us have backgrounds in victim services. And we will be working on the statewide needs assessment. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about kind of our methods for that, the topics we'll be talking about, and also the timeline for that. Can we go, Maddie, to the next slide? Thank you. So the target population is victim survivors of person crimes, so sexual and domestic violence, but also other types of person crimes, parent survivors of child abuse, adult survivors of child abuse, as well as trafficking, elder abuse, financial crimes, so kind of the gamut of person crimes. We're really hoping to get input from victim survivors who have both reported to law enforcement and not reported, and accessed victim services and not accessed victim services. So part of what we're trying to get at is really, what are the things that prevent people from reporting and or accessing services? Are there supports we could put in place that would help make those processes work better for folks? For advocate stakeholders, we're really trying to get the range of system and community-based, campus, medical-based. I saw in the chat earlier, someone referenced the SANE program. So SANE program employees, mental health services, and children's justice centers. And next slide, please. Thank you. So our method is kind of a twofold method. We are starting with an online survey that we will be launching with you all today. Our hope is that that online survey really informs the interviews that we'll be doing subsequently. And really the logic behind that is we all have kind of a sense, I think, of what questions we should be asking. There's probably stuff out there that's going wrong that we're not sure about. And so we're really hoping to gather information from the surveys, and that will help us form those more in-depth interviews. We will be doing the interviews in person, via telephone, and virtually. At the end of today, we'll be sending the survey out to all of you for the advocate stakeholder survey. On Monday, we will be sending a link and a QR code for the victim survey. And we're really hoping that you all can help us get this information out to victims. So in order to understand their experience, in order to understand what we don't know, I think a lot of you probably know that, but we are really hoping to get a lot of victim input on this. And then obviously we'll be doing interviews with both. You will see at the end of both surveys that there's a question that asks if you would be willing to be interviewed. So that's one way we'll be recruiting folks for interviews. We'll also be sending out additional information later in October to specifically recruit folks for interviews. Next slide. Thank you. So the overview in terms of kind of the broad questions that we're trying to answer really is identify gaps in services, really problems that people have with referral and accessibility. So thinking about, it's hard to get a hold of an agency, or no one told me it existed until I was halfway through this case, or the two agencies didn't collaborate well or share information well with each other, anything like that. Interested in differential experiences for those who report to law enforcement and do not, and for those who access victim services and not. For the victim survey, we will be specifically asking if they knew victim services existed, and if they did and chose not to access those services, why, and is there anything that we could do to kind of make that feel more accessible to them. Also looking at interagency collaboration, congruence between needs and available services, and recommendations for improvement. So again, my hope is that through the surveys and answering these questions, we identify additional domains that we want to ask about in the in-depth interviews, so that we're kind of expanding the scope of this by going through this sort of two-stage process. Next slide. So the timeline, again, we'll be sending you all the QR code for the advocate stakeholder surveys today. The victim surveys will go out on Monday. We are also right now submitting an application to the IRB to get a Spanish language translation. So that will be kind of part of our second stage, so that we can send out a Spanish version of the survey. And then we also will need to get approval to have interpreters, so that for the interviews, we can have interpreters help with that. So we're capturing, hopefully, a wide range of people with different experiences and marginalized populations as well. So October, November will be our data collection, and then we'll be doing the analysis and presenting the results in November and December. I would need to defer to the folks at OVC, but I'm assuming this information will be available to people. Sorry, Vicki or Tally.
Yes. Yeah, we will disseminate it out once it is, once the reporting is all done.
And also in the survey and in some of the materials, you're seeing both my information and Erin's contact information. So we are always happy to help. If you have questions about it, if you have someone who's willing to take the survey but would rather have us kind of ask the questions and enter the information ourselves instead of them doing it, we're happy to do any of that. The information itself, we're really, again, looking at the system more than individual agencies. So with that, we're not going to be highlighting specific entities as much as looking at how does the system function. All of the information will be confidential, and we won't be tying the surveys to the interviews at all. So, and also for the interviews, victims have the option of using a pseudonym or just a first name, or kind of, there's not any reason we actually need to know their full identity. Next slide. So this is my contact information and Erin's contact information. I did want to share my screen, if that's okay, and just show you the advocate survey. Maddie, I love having you in the background here. I feel magic. Like I just say I want something and then it happens. Let's see.
She's like the wizard behind the counter.
Maddie's like our genie. She just does whatever we need her to. She's amazing.
It's just this funny thing, like when you not knowing you or being able to see you, it's like this funny, like I'm magic. Okay, share. So this is, again, we'll be sharing the QR code with this for you today, but this is just showing you what the advocate stakeholder survey looks like. The questions for the victim survey are different. Oops. So this is just, again, consenting. What describes your agency? For almost every question, we do have the option to just write in if our options don't capture your experience. The first set of questions are really about your agency, the types of victims that you work with, the type of agents, the type of services you provide, the type of agency you are. I think one thing that OVC has been interested in is what's the experience for advocates who are working, again, in a system where your supervisor is a police officer versus another victim advocate versus maybe court personnel. Obviously, we're interested in differences in rural versus urban settings, because clearly there will be differences in terms of accessibility. And then again, here getting at some information about the organizational structure, training and certification that's required and that would be helpful. Caseload. So this is a question that has some skip logic, that if folks are saying that they are overwhelmed and overworked, it will take you to a question asking you to talk a little bit more about that. Ability of your organization to address needs, reasons that you can't address those needs. This is information about crime victim rights. So I won't make you all stay with me for every single step of this, but again, kind of rating your community. This particular question here really is asking you to rate your community, not so much your agency. So when you think of all the entities that work with victims of crime, would you overall say that your community does very well or not very well? And then again, asking you if you're rating your community poor in some ways, what would help that, and is there differential? So you have some aspects of your system that function very well and some aspects that don't function well at all. Again, I don't want to go through the whole thing, but really trying to assess that, like, where are you all seeing victims struggle? Where are you yourselves and your agencies struggling? And what things can OVC build into their strategic planning process to try and address some of those concerns? So unless you have questions or want to see the rest of this, I'm going to stop sharing. Can I stop sharing? Can't remember how to stop sharing now. Why is it not letting me stop share? Let's see. Oh, now you can see all of my screen. Okay. There we go. Okay. Sorry, I was like, I can't stop sharing. Any questions for Erin or I? I know Erin was going to talk a little bit about, we are aware that there is another needs assessment survey going on right now. So Erin, if you want to talk a little bit about the differences.
Yeah, sure. The Utah Domestic Violence Coalition, UDVC, in collaboration with some other the other statewide coalitions, as well as DCFS, I know recently put out a needs assessment survey and started recruiting for focus groups. So we just wanted to be really clear that these are two different things. They ask different questions. That survey is only focused on victim advocates, as opposed to this one, which will have, as you've heard, the advocate and the victim survivor surveys. That other survey is also not all crime victims. It's specific to domestic and sexual violence, human trafficking. There's a list there, but it doesn't kind of encompass all victims of crime. So I know that you're all very busy people with limited time, but we really ask you to fill out both surveys because they are for different purposes and different audiences. And I think both will really help the field and help us build a stronger network in the state in general. So anything else about that, Christian, or that any questions folks have?
No, I think that's good. I think in terms of the process, after today's meeting, we will be sending out flyers and emails that you all that have the information for the advocate survey that you can distribute to your networks. So we're asking that you send those emails, post those flyers so that folks can see them and fill them out. We will be doing the same thing on Monday with the advocates, with the victim services survey. Sorry, I taught a 3-hour class today, so my brain is a little bit fried at the moment. With the survey for victims and survivors. And that's the one, again, that we're really, of course, do not want you to be giving it to people in crisis or interrupting any kind of services you're providing. But particularly if there are folks who have previously used your services that you still have contact with who are willing to answer it, that we're really, you all are the most likely way that we can get that input from victims that I think is super important to understanding how well the system is functioning. And with that, again, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Christian. And we appreciate the work that you guys are doing for this assessment. If you want to go to the next slide, Maddie, that would be great. So benefits, we've kind of touched on this, but really our benefit is that we want to receive an understanding of the gaps of services and what services are already working well, but where we do have those gaps. After we get all of the data from this assessment, we will have strategic planning sessions, and I hope that you guys will also be involved in that to really develop policies and procedures to bridge those gaps. And we do really want to create that seamless victim service approach across the state so that a victim was a victim of domestic violence in Salt Lake County, and then maybe unfortunately relocated and was then a victim of domestic violence in Cache County, that they should expect to receive the same level of services and have the same things offered to them in both jurisdictions. So we want to also give voice to you as the victim service providers, and also a voice to the victims in the victim service process. We want to strengthen that collaboration between the victim service providers, between the system-based versus community-based versus state agencies, all of that, to have that seamless approach. And then hopefully we can utilize some of this material as well to educate legislators and other stakeholders of the existing gaps and strategies to build those gaps. I know that funding is one concern for a lot of people. And so that might be something that we can see that gap and where future funding could be the most utilized. As I mentioned before, ours is a different assessment than the one that UOVC, UCASA, and sounds like DCFS and other agencies were doing. Both are going to be valuable assessments, but just assessing different things. You can go to the next slide. So what now? Really, we need you guys to fill out the victim service provider survey first, and then really help us distribute the needs assessment to victims and survivors across the state. And so ways that you guys can distribute this once to the victims and survivors is if you have email addresses, and that's one way that you have communicated with victims, you can send it via email. If you could add the survey link and QR code to your agency website or your social media so that it could reach a victim that way, or post flyers of the survey information, and we will be emailing out the informational flyer as well as the QR code. It'll be on the next slide as well, but if you could put that up in your office or public spaces that they can just scan the QR code and take the survey. As you saw before with Christian, she was showing the survey. It can be, they've made it so that you can take it very easily on the phone as well. As you saw to the right, that's how it looked on the phone. Or you could include it in the survey information if you guys do like an agency newsletter, or your city maybe sends one out, or your nonprofit sends one. And then if you communicate with a victim through text, you could text the survey link or the QR code. Things to remember as you're giving this to victims is to let them know that it is anonymous and it's completely optional. If they want to put any contact information or any of their information at the end to be interviewed, they do not have to be interviewed, but if they would like to share more about their victim survivor story or what happened to them as part of the process, they can choose that. And then we don't want to give like Christian said, we don't want to be giving this and asking them to fill out a survey while they're in crisis. And to make sure that they know that this is voluntary, it's also voluntary for you guys. This should not impact the services you're offering to them. It doesn't impact anything with your funding, anything like that. It's voluntary completely. And it should be filled out by the victim if at all possible. But if they do need that technical assistance, like Christian mentioned, you can contact either Christian or Erin and they can do that. We would prefer that you as the advocate are not assisting them in filling out the survey, just because there are questions about you as the advocate of what things you provided or questions like that. The survey is not a secret of what the questions are. Once you guys have the victim link, you'd be more than welcome to open that and you can look at what we're asking in that survey. But we find that it's just better to have an unbiased approach on that, so they are filling it out themselves or having Christian or Erin help them. You want to go to the next slide. So is there any questions up to this point? Yeah, and we will be looking at sending this out. We will send the victim survey out to our SWAVO contact list. If you're on that, we will also send it to those that attended, I believe, today. And someone asked if these surveys can be counted as surveys distributed for your grant. Usually those surveys are meant to be about evaluating what your services specifically are. So probably, I would say not counted on your VOCA grant. I think that's what you're trying to ask, but if your agency is just asking for surveys to be distributed. And one thing that I would also advise on the disseminating out the survey to victims is if you do have a way to have it be unbiased, so you're not like just sending it to the clients that you've worked with for 3 years and they've had a really great experience. We really want to get the gamut of, we really want those amazing stories and what things went really well, but we also want to see where things maybe broke down or where they felt a little lost. So we want to have that go to a lot of victims so that we can see kind of the whole picture of everything of that. So if there's any other questions, you can put them in the chat or the Q&A, but we are going to end a little early here and we want to give you guys the opportunity to do the survey now. If you'd like, it should only take about 15 to 20 minutes since you've blocked out already that you were going to be in our training or webinar for till 2:30. You can scan that QR code and then I will put the link in the chat as well really quickly that you guys can fill this out right now. as a victim service provider, or at least get it started and opened. And again, you guys can ask any questions as well. We really appreciate you guys being here today. Our new Resource Connect resource, I keep calling it the wrong thing, I apologize, Victim Resource Connect, as well as our needs assessment and the process of that and what the value will be in that. If you want to go to the last slide, you can, and then we'll come back to this one. Here is my information, as well as I put Erin, since she's going to be kind of the main person doing the interviews and things like that. So you guys can reach out to either of us if you do have questions about the survey. And then last slide, or this previous slide now. And yes, please, like Christian said, please feel free to, sorry, her, I guess only went to hosts and panelists, but feel free to distribute the survey link or QR code to all staff at your agency. So anyone providing victim services, if you're the director of a shelter, please give it to all of your shelter staff. We would love to get as much input. The more input we have, the more valuable the information can be, and the more distinct, the variety of information we can receive as well. Is there anything else you want to add, Tally?
Just wanted to give a big thank you to everybody for joining us today. This really does make a difference for victims in our state, of connecting those gaps and helping them to get access from the services they need and from the great work that you guys are all doing. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Please take the survey and really, even more importantly, send it on. We'll be sending out information to you all via email. Reach out to us if you haven't seen that email in the next few days. But get this information out there, because we really want to be able to hear from crime victims. We send out a lot of surveys to professionals in the field, and you guys all do great. But there's a lot more hoops to jump through to actually get victims. We have to get review board approval and be able to reach them. So we've made all the push. So if you guys could get this out for us, we can get the information to you to make all of our services better. So thank you again, and you guys have a wonderful weekend too. And we'll leave the Zoom on for just a few extra minutes too. If anybody still needs to copy and paste that link to their, go ahead and take it now, and then it's out of sight, out of mind. So thank you.